de los contribuyentes.
Without sound, yeah, you're calling me, and I don't think it's very fair that your shoulders are frozen. or Capulets. Just banning tunes in DJ sets and dirty dance floors and dreams of naughtiness. Well, I bet that you look good
right, good morning. I will now call the City Council meeting of Monday, February 24th, 2025 to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Council President. Councilmember Campbell? Councilmember Whitburn?
Here.
Councilmember Foster?
Here.
Councilmember Von Wilpert? Council President Pro Tem Lee? Councilmember Campillo?
Here.
Councilmember Moreno? Present. Councilmember Elo Rivera? And Council President LaCava. Also attending the meeting are City Attorney Heather Ferber, Independent Budget Analyst Charles Modica, and myself, your City Clerk, Diana Fuentes.
Thank you, Clerk. A quorum is now present. We will begin this morning with an invocation by City Clerk Fuentes, followed with the land acknowledgement and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Moreno.
Grant those who hold office in this city the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people.
We respectfully acknowledge that the Kumeyaay Nation are the original inhabitants of the unceded land now known as San Diego. Despite enduring the horrors of genocide and colonialization, the Kumeyaay spirit remains unbroken. We honor the resilience of their ancestors who fought to protect their culture and land. Today, they carry their legacy forward, ensuring that their traditions continue to thrive in gratitude and strength. We stand with the Kumeyaay Nation, connected to our past and committed to a thriving future. Please face the flag, put your hand over your heart, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I turn it over to the clerk, I want to thank the clerk and her team for the technological solutions to some of the camera problems we have, and that's why your screen may look a little bit different. The clerk will now go over how the public can offer their public testimony. Clerk, please proceed.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you for acknowledging that. Yes, this is not City TV quality, but it is a visual of Council chambers, while City TV handles any technical difficulties with our cameras here in chambers. I will now highlight the slide on the screen that reviews how the public can offer their public testimony during today's meeting. The order can be found on the agenda summary found online or at the table in the back of the room. If you are in person, please complete a speaker slip located at the entrance of chambers and bring it to the front of the room. No further in-person testimony will be taken once the council begins virtual testimony. Thank you, Council President.
All right, thank you. The clerk will read the closed session items into the record. Clerk, please proceed.
Thank you. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9D1 is CS1 Jane Doe FEJ versus Sweetwater Unified High School District et al. And CS2 is Cesarina Williams versus the City of San Diego. Thank you, Council President.
All right, thank you. And please proceed with public comment.
We have no public comment here in council chambers, and we have the original. If you can please let us know which item or items you wish to speak to on the closed session agenda.
My phone was delaying, I almost missed it. Both of them, please.
All right. You'll have 1 minute each. Please proceed with CS1, and then we'll give you a minute for CS2.
Okay, this is very disturbing that this is something that we even have to talk about. We shouldn't be having police officers engage in underage relationships with students at a high school when they're set there to work. And I think we really need to be mindful of who we are putting into the schools to be around children when pedophilia is something that is very prevalent in the United States of America, unfortunately, and we're some of the biggest consumers of child porn. So we need to be making sure that schools are not a place where this kind of behavior is going to take place. And this officer should, hopefully he's been fired and is no longer even a part of the police department, because it makes the police department look good. You're only as good as your worst employee. So hopefully this will get justice for this individual.
Thank you. Please proceed to CS2.
And this one is a little bit disturbing as well. They all are. I mean, there's constant cases from trips and falls. And this one, I mean, somebody has neurological injuries in addition to orthopedic, but, I think we just have to be constantly doing better, making sure that we're not putting people in danger through the infrastructure not being kept up or what have you. And, the money that continues to be spent for cases like this, when you have to pay someone a settlement, just takes from more money that could be going towards something else. So hopefully these start to, die down and not be so prevalent here at the city council, because it seems to be there's one pretty much every time you guys have to go into closed session. So I'm hoping that this person can, find some kind of relief from whatever you're going to be providing to them.
Thank you. Next is 8700. If you can please unmute and let me know which item or items you wish to speak to. 8700, I can't unmute for you. There you go.
City Clerk Fuentes, it's very, very staticky on my end. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. Joyce Zenyatta, District 3. I'm sorry, City Clerk, please, excuse me. I'll speak on both items.
All right, you'll have a minute each. Please proceed.
On item 1, I wasn't going to speak on either of these items today. I've spoken often on the trip and falls, but I just, in this last moment or two, I decided to speak. Here's what I want to say on item 1. It is said by others, we keep our young people young too long. In other countries, they are really allowed to mature much sooner, and they're capable of it. They have so many hormones that are racing, and it's confusing. It's confusing for all parties, really. So 19 years is a long time. I hope this person in those years was able to work through that and get the help that was needed. And I'm going to say this, I say it before, we are all flawed, we are all biased, we are all wounded, and we all bleed red. So we
Please
must
move
have
on to
compassion
CS2.
for all parties.
Please move on to CS2.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So on the trip and fall, I went to I went to Logan Heights yesterday for the first time. And I want to say this about the sidewalks, at least, from the trolley to the library and a few other places. The sidewalks were pretty darn good. So, I walk downtown mostly 90% of the time. So we really have a lot of work to do downtown and even walking up to the University Avenue. So we just keep working at it. And I keep saying we got to be our own self-advocates. We got to take care of ourselves, look at your feet, lift them up and down, look at your environment, and look at the sidewalk. So love to all, and just keep on working at it. We're doing it. We're still here. Thank you. Love to all.
Thank you. And that does conclude public comment on the closed session agenda today.
All right, thank you to the City Clerk. We will now recess into closed session and reconvene council today at 2 p.m. or shortly thereafter.
I can feel it breaking free with each and every kiss. I couldn't bear to hurt you, but it's all so different now. Things that I was sure of, they have filled me up with doubt. And I can feel you.
Councilmember Campbell? Thank you. Councilmember Whitburn?
Here.
Councilmember Foster?
Here.
Councilmember Von Wilpert? Council President Pro Tem Lee?
Here.
Councilmember Campillo? Councilmember Moreno?
Present.
Councilmember Elo Rivera? And Council President LaCava.
Present.
Also attending the meeting are City Attorney Heather Ferber, Independent Budget Analyst Charles Modica, Council Affairs Advisor in the Mayor's Office, Cota Zeiser, and myself, your City Clerk, Diana Fuentes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any Mayor, Council, City Attorney, Independent Budget Analyst, or City Clerk comments? Not seeing any. Oh, Madam City Clerk.
Just really quickly, I am pleased to announce that we have made it easier than ever to access the legislative calendar as well as our other links on the web. We have shortened the link to www.sandiego.gov/legcal will direct you to the legislative calendar that includes the schedule for all city council and committee meetings. In addition, you can go to sandiego.gov/cc and that will take you directly to the city council agenda, as well as sandiego.gov/cm to council committees. And if you'd like to come to this meeting, sandiego.gov/council MTG for meeting, and that will take you straight to the Zoom webinar, just trying to make it easier for everyone to access without having to type in 100,000 things. So thank you, Council President, for the time.
All right, thank you, City Clerk. The clerk will now go over how the public can offer their public testimony. Please proceed.
I'll now highlight the slide on the screen that reviews how the public can offer their public testimony during this afternoon's meeting. The order can be found on the agenda summary, found online or at the back table in the back of the room. If you are in person, please complete a speaker slip located at the entrance of chambers and bring it to the front of the room in the white inbox there. Council ambassadors are available near the entrance of chambers and can assist with questions and speaker slips. No further in-person testimony will be taken once the council begins virtual testimony. Thank you, Council President.
All right, thank you, Clerk. Next item is request for continuance by council members, and I will kick that off. I would like to make a motion to continue item 203 to Monday, March 17th, 2025 at 2 p.m.
I'll offer a second.
All right. Thank you, sir. Council member Elo Rivera offers a second. So let's go through the sequence. Applicant, are you available on Monday, March 17th, 2025 at 2 p.m. to present on this item?
Yes, Council President. Much to our chagrin, we could be available if this is continued.
All right, thank you very much. And staff, March 17 works for you as well?
Yes, Council President.
All right, thank you. Thank you. We have a motion by myself, Council President LaCava, and a second by Council Member Elo Rivera. Clerk, please proceed with public comment on the continuance.
I will be, several speakers did submit speaker slips on this item since they may not have known if the continuance was here. Please only come up to the podium and form a line behind it if you want to speak to the continuance. If you want to speak to the item, that would be at a later time, possibly. Marcela Escobar-Eck. After that is Jeffrey Forrest, Phuong Nguyen, Cesar Javier, Michelle Strauss, and Sunjana Supakar. If you want to speak to the continuance, please form a line behind Marcela Escobar. And you will have 2 minutes. Please proceed.
So Marcela Escobar, President, CEO of Atlantis Group Land Use Consultants, representing the applicant. We are prepared to go forward today. We're a little surprised about this continuance. We feel that we've been at this for 5 years. This is why housing is expensive. This continuance will cost somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000. Again, we've been at this for 5 years. We still have to go to State Coastal Commission, and we have worked very, very diligently with the community. There's a number of hundreds of supporters that have written letters of Council President LaCava's constituents. Many of them are here today and took their time to be here. But if that's the will of the council, we will take the continuance, but it is very disappointing. Thank you.
I see nobody else lined up to speak. Did you want to speak on the continuance? Please state your name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Sanjana Supakar, and I'm an attorney at Carson's Black and Tier, and I'm representing the San Diego River Community Alliance. I too would like to express our concern regarding the continuance. Many of our members took time off work to come here. You know, we're ready and prepared to express our objections to the project, you know, we're looking forward to communicating those to the council today. You know, we understand. So if the council needs to continue, the matter will be ready and prepared as well. But we do sincerely would like to just express our disappointment. This is an issue that our community members have been really focused and really concerned about, particularly in light of the fires, the devastating fires in Los Angeles. This is on the forefront of everyone's minds. So thank you very much and appreciate your time.
Thank you. Nobody else has come forward to speak on the continuance. Okay, please come forward.
Thank you. recovering from a flu, so forgive my voice. My name is Harry Krikorian. I'm representing maybe 50 or more Carmel Valley residents with me today. We've strongly supported this project. We're very disappointed that it's being discontinued, or I should say continued, not discontinued. Many of us have come to support it today, as we have for the last several years. I'm really surprised that the Planning Commission could approve such a beautiful project with an overwhelming 11-0 vote, and yet we come here today, and apparently there are some issues unresolved. It's a magnificent project, well needed in the community, and we've expressed our support for the last 4 or 5 years. If we need to come back, we will. I understand that it's disappointing to drive all this way, have so many people here, and not be able to make our position clear. But we appreciate the opportunity to come back and do so. Thank you.
Cesar Javier, I saw you come up. If you'd like to speak on the continuance, you can come up, sir, and speak to the continuance. But if you'd like to speak to the continuance, please be sure to sit in the yellow reserve seats. Please.
Good afternoon, Council. Doug Hicks, Western States Regional Council of Carpenters. We see many developers come through this town who do it the wrong way. Today we have a developer who's done it right, and we're here in full support of the project and hope you move it forward today. We're wanting to see housing in our community, especially for our vulnerable seniors. Thank you.
Thank you. Cesar Javier, please come forward.
Cesar Javier. There must be a continuance in the legislation because we missed so many things in the past. I voice this particularly to my classmate, Councilor Rivera, and my acquaintance in 2022, Councilor Lacaba, who dubbed our issue as environmental issue. My classmate Rivera says, oh, this is air pollution, air quality issue. Let us continue to reduce pollution, air, land, water, ocean, whatever, because that is a key to survival. The key of SICA, which means decent home, suitable surroundings. Let's continue to solve the issues, particularly west bank of Choyas Creek, District 9. We are forgotten. Please, let's continue our positive effort, not forward to the rear, Mr. Mayor. Forward, forward, forward. Where? Tell us. Where is the mayor? This is a crisis. Uncle Sam says, I will stop the grant and budget for you. Why? You do not show the balance sheet. You do not show the statement profit loss. How will I give you money? Show me. Show me. I am speaking of Uncle Sam. I'm representing this country in my humble capacity as 73 years old citizen. Please show our money where it went to. By golly, let's continue. Let's
Your time
continue
has concluded.
work. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Anara. Ma'am, did you want to speak to the continuance in the first row? Okay, you can come up after. I think so. I did see you give it to my staffer. I just couldn't read the name. My apologies. Please continue.
My name is Andrea Ebbing, and I just wanted to speak on behalf of the community that the delays that take place in this administration are so unacceptable, and they're hurting us tremendously. There's a lot of focus on importing Afghani refugees, right? We can bring them in because we can't house our people that live here, but we want to bring in Afghani refugees, right? Because that's what Mayor Todd Gloria and several of you have thanked Afghan evac for bringing undocumented Afghani refugees to San Diego and building a large community when we're trying to house our current residents. I experienced a terrible horrific violent crime here in San Diego. And it's been delay, 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 delay for 4 years. So we can't house our community, we can't protect our community, we can't afford our community, and yet Todd Gloria is going to the Philippines and spending $8,000. $24 billion is missing, and our auditor doesn't know why or what $142 million in other pay is. Other pay isn't overtime, it's not pensions, it's not benefits. Something really terrible is going on here, and it's unfortunate that people have to leave their jobs to come here to present to you, and you're not here to hear them. Or Todd's not anyway, right? So something needs to be done here in the city. It's really unfortunate. I think a lot of job loss, a lot of confusion, frustration, distraction takes place for people who are just simply trying to carry out the work of housing people in San Diego. Thank you.
Please state your name for the record when you come forward.
Good afternoon. Michelle Strauss, I'm the chair of the Carmel Valley Community Planning Board. We have no objection to a continuance. The planning board did approve this project, but we included 4 conditions as part of that approval. When this was heard at the Planning Commission, there was no inclusion of those conditions, and so we've submitted a letter to all of you asking that those be addressed prior to any approval. I would just ask, I know the applicant is scheduled to come back to our board this Thursday. I would just ask that city staff attend that meeting and provide us an update from their side of things on our requests and whether they can happen or not. Thank you.
And Jaya Ditya?
Hello. Hi. So I wanted to point out a couple of things. As the other members of the community are very disappointed that we cannot have this discussion today. But even though, I would still like to give some points. I just read an article which was published by the San Diego Tribune on February 4th, talking about how the Carmel Valley Community Planning Commission is concerned about those 4 conditions which they believe has not been met by the developers. Firstly, I just wanted to point out that last time when we had this meeting here with the Planning Commission, there were statements made like, we don't want that development to happen because that's going to obstruct our view. When residents, in fact, bought the properties 10 years back, besides an empty lot, were they thinking that there's going to be no development happening in 10 years? Of course not. So if they're having development right now, I believe a lot of the incentives for residents to oppose this project is solely based on them not wanting to have any further development in the area. Second point, which was mentioned in the article which I read, was that there's a big concern about traffic because there's only one entranceway to the assisted living facility, which is through the church. Mind you that I volunteer at the Sunday school, and I know for a fact that the church is only operational during Sundays, and that too in the afternoons, and occasionally on Wednesdays in the evenings for the home entertainment dance classes. So at the other time, there's going to be no traffic from the church community. So
Your time has concluded, sir. Jeff DeToro?
Thank you.
Hello, thanks for allowing me the opportunity to come speak up here with you. I appreciate the time and consideration. My name is Jeff DeToro, and I'm a local business owner here in San Diego. I'm also a original homeowner and a 21-year resident in the property in the community just directly adjacent to the proposed development site. So as a 21-year resident, I'm very familiar with the North City region and its growth and traffic patterns. So there are many points that I could discuss with you today, but I'm just going to keep it really simple to 3 in opposition of approving the project. So the first one we just heard, but
It is to the continuance, sir, so if you could speak to the continuance, to the item being heard on March 17th rather than today.
oh,
So it's only comments to the continuance.
okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. That does conclude public comment here in council chambers. We're going to those participating remotely. The original, after that, we have Jeff Hayden and Lori Saldana and 8700. We have 4 speakers in the queue. Please speak to the continuance of item 203.
Yes, I first wanted to say amen to what the woman in the overall said. She's very spot on. And it's very disheartening, and, you know, you should be more transparent as far as why you're wanting to continue it, instead of just, you know, stating that you want to continue it when all of these people have taken time out of their day to come down and redress you guys, to let you know how they feel about this item. You are disenfranchising many of these people, because who knows if they're going to be able to come back when you when you actually hear this item. And if what the applicant said is true, as far as it could potentially cost $50,000 to $100,000, I don't know why that would be. But if that's the case, that's a huge problem, because you're, you know, putting, you know, more problems onto the people that are trying to bring this forward and provide something for the community. And I just, you know, again, I think you guys need to be, if after everybody speaks, if you could be more clear for accountability and transparency, to say exactly why you're choosing to do this. If it's the city's negligence, that's a problem, because if the applicants can be ready, and if all these people can be ready to come in and let you guys know how they feel about it or what's going on with it, the city should be able to do their job and make sure that they're ready to hear an item. So if there's something going on that you know, is causing it so that you guys aren't ready, you need to be transparent with the people so that they fully understand why you're doing this, and it doesn't seem like there could be some funny business going on, because that's usually what happens with the city. And you know, I just think you need to be more respectful of the people that do take that time out of their day to be able to come and, you know, talk about certain items. Because again, there's going to most likely be a lot of people that are here today that won't be able to come back next time. And in that, you should actually let them say their piece so they have
Your time has
say.
concluded. Jeff Hayden, if you can please unmute.
Well, thank you. This is Jeff Hayden. I live up in North City on Kibbings Road, about 500 steps from El Camino Real. I have 2 primary concerns at this point. I wholly favor and support the continuance, because I know that there are outstanding items about this project. There's 2 of them that I want to talk about right now, about the size of the structure and the impacts on the adjacent community. I understand that the request of the applicant to genuinely negotiate with these homeowners, Stallions Crossing, were shot down with blunt remarks like, that won't work for us, and we've looked at that already. My other concern that justifies the continuance revolves around the applicant failing to generate any new or inexpensive traffic counts that are needed and required by the City of San Diego for this already dangerous single driveway serving both the existing church and the proposed assisted living facility. This is a very serious issue. I live by this street. I use this street. People drive on this street all the time. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's parking lot. The cars go 60 miles an hour down here, and all we have is a single stop sign on a horizontal curve where you can't even see the oncoming traffic. That's why this project's being continued, and I applaud City Council and everyone else and staff involved in that continuance, because we haven't sorted out everything. I think all of us up here are in favor of additional housing for the elderly. That's a good thing. We applaud that, but we don't applaud dangerous intersections. And my hope is that we can all work out something that works for everybody and that's safe for the people driving by. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lori Saldana, if you can please unmute.
So regarding the continuance, as previous speakers have said, it's hard to know just the rationale for this. What is it going to be considered? There's one thing that the potential residents of this facility don't have, and that's frankly much time. If you look at the review of who's going to be potentially living here, it's people with an average age over 80 years, people who require assistance with basic activities of daily life, and many of them will require memory care and be treated for dementia. So every day that is delayed providing housing for this people impacts not only these older adults who need this housing, but delays and continuances impact family members who may at this point be providing care in their homes or in other facilities. So it's, as someone who has been a caregiver, who assists many other friends that are participating in caregiving for older adults in their lives, family members and friends in their 80s and 90s, delays are a luxury for people who are not dealing with the daily care of senior residents who require assistance with their daily living. So please, I encourage this council to keep this in mind, not only for this project, but for future projects that come to you that are aimed at these types of facilities. The daily costs, the daily resources needed add up very quickly. And so I understand the frustration expressed by the applicants. Delaying these projects puts a tremendous burden on many families who desperately need this type of supportive and assisted living for older adults that they are caring for. So I hope that you will bring this back just as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. 8700, your final speaker. The 5-minute timer has concluded here in council chambers. There you go.
Thank you, City Clerk Fuentes. Joyce United District 3. First of all, I'm on the fence on this, so I'm not going to give you a yes or no, but I do want to speak on the continuation process. First of all, as other speakers have said, we need transparency on these continuation items. We need you to give us a basic synopsis as to why you're doing that. Hey, there are 26 backup items on this, and I don't know if those 4 issues are somewhere given to us in those 26 items, but we have a right to know that. And dear public, please know this. You are beautiful, and you gave your voice today. You didn't miss out on anything, really. You took me on the ground, and I got to see a better picture of what happens in our government and on this item. So honor these continuance, not a yes or no, I'm not saying that, but do speak your voice. If you're in the audience and they continue it, you have 2 minutes to stand up there and speak your voice or be on the phone. Don't give up the beautiful time you have to do that. I'm realizing now how, thank you, City Council, for giving us that public speaking time. So I wanted to say one more thing, and I think I'm forgetting it. But anyway, it works in many ways, but do give us a synopsis and give us transparency. Would you please? Thank you. Love to all.
Thank you. That does conclude public comment on this item.
All right. Thank you to everybody who weighed in. This is an opportunity in the sequence of how we handle continuances for the council members to raise any questions or comments on the continuance, and I'll kick things off. I appreciate everybody that did take the time to come down. My decision to request a continuance was made middle of this morning. We did try to reach out to individuals, but it's always a little bit tricky, having been in this position in my prior days in the private sector. I don't take this very lightly. My colleagues and city staff know that when these issues come up, I take a very deep dive. There's been 5 years, as was mentioned several times. There's been literally thousands of hours put in by the applicant and their team. There has been questions raised by the neighborhood and by the planning group, and I take that all very, very seriously. And I want to make sure that whatever action we take, that we do that thoughtfully and correctly and being fully informed on the issues. I know I spent the entire weekend reviewing the material that led me to this decision to request that continuance. I don't take that lightly. This is a District 1 project, so I'm maybe a little more familiar with some of the issues in that corner of our city. But with that, I would hope my colleagues would support the request. It's a motion by myself and a second by Councilmember Elo Rivera to continue item 203 to Monday, March 17th, 2025 at 2 p.m. And I see Councilmember Campbell is on the lights.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you to everyone who spoke. I wish we could see the presentation. This is the first I've heard that there was going to be a continuance. This particular project has been gone over and over and over. Planning Commission voted for it, and the planning group voted for it. In reviewing the maps for it, it appears that the contractors have made other arrangements, that there's more than one way to enter. I'm not sure, but I don't see any reason for a continuance. I think we need this facility. It's a beautiful facility. It's been approved, and I think we should go ahead and vote on it today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Not seeing anybody on the lights. Again, we have a motion by myself and a second by Councilmember Elo Rivera for the continuance of this item 203 to Monday, March 17th, 2025 at 2 p.m. Please call the vote, clerk.
I started the voting system. Please cast your vote. Did it finally happen? May I have your vote for the record, Councilmember Elo Rivera? Thank you. And that does pass 8-1 with Councilmember Campbell voting no.
All right, thank you, everybody. With that, clerk, please introduce item 201.
Item 201 is establishing a process to authorize the Office of the City Attorney to participate in amicus briefs, initiate litigation, and participate in federal rulemaking on behalf of the City of San Diego. If you'd like to speak on this item, please be sure to raise your hand by pressing *9 or the raise your hand icon, or if you are here in council chambers, please be sure to submit your speaker slip to the high speaker slip area. Thank you, Council President.
And with that, staff, please introduce yourselves for the record and let us know how much time you need for your presentation.
Thank you, Council President. I'll be making the presentation this afternoon. I need 5 minutes.
All right, please proceed.
Thank you. I'm joined this afternoon by Chief Deputy City Attorney Mark Inkhorn and Deputy City Attorney Julie Rao, who will be available to help answer any questions. Today, my office is requesting your approval of a process to authorize the Office of the City Attorney to participate in amicus briefs, initiate and join litigation, and participate in federal rulemaking on behalf of the City of San Diego. Next slide, please. The city has historically joined amicus curiae briefs and other actions when approved by council in closed session. An amicus curiae, friend of the court brief, is appropriate when the ramifications of decisions extend beyond the current parties. Joining gives the city the opportunity to provide facts for a court to consider when deciding on these important matters. The city's participation as an amicus in litigation has been valuable, often cementing victories in the appellate courts that affect city residents. Next slide, please. Between 2018 and 2021, the city joined several cases related to federal immigration policies that are identified in the staff report. Since mid-January, my office has received several requests to join lawsuits and amicus briefs arising out of actions taken by the new federal administration, including threats to freeze federal funding to cities and to the constitutional and statutory rights of city residents. On all of these prospective cases, the city's time to respond has been extremely short. We anticipate many more requests will come and are asking council to adopt this process to consider joining litigation and filing amicus briefs to preserve the city's rights. Next slide, please. What we are proposing is an expedited process to authorize the city attorney's office to quickly communicate with the council about potential legal responses to actions taken by the federal government. Specifically, the process would apply to opportunities to challenge federal laws, regulations, or policies that threaten the city's fiscal stability or the constitutional or statutory rights of San Diegans related to immigration, reproductive rights, LGBTQ+ rights, or the city's access to federal funds. And this, of course, does not prevent the city from bringing or joining litigation on other topics through the closed session process we use now. Next slide, please. If approved today, the office would email each council member when we receive requests to join a lawsuit or amicus brief or file a response letter to a federal rule. The email would include information about the proposed action and the time for a requested response. We will try to give council members at least 3 days to respond, but it may be shorter based on the time given to join the action. After we send that email, if 3 or more council members request to hear the matter, the office will schedule it for a closed session. If we don't hear from 3 or more council members, we will proceed with initiating or joining the brief, lawsuit, or filing the response letter. The Office of the City Attorney will provide monthly email updates about the initiation of actions taken under this authority. And this process would only apply to cases filed on behalf of and in the name of the City of San Diego. Again, cases could still be brought to closed session if they don't fit the process well, or if council members would like to discuss them there. Next slide, please. To protect the legal rights and interests of the city and its residents and provide for flexibility similar to the city's legislative platform, the City Attorney's Office is proposing this alternative process to respond to threats to the city's financial stability, and to San Diegans from the new federal administration. Thank you, and we're available for questions.
All right, thank you, Madam City Attorney, for the presentation and for bringing this item forward. Clerk, please proceed with public comment.
Thank you, Council President. Cesar Javier, if you can please come forward. After that, we have Mary Davis. If you can please come forward to the yellow reserved seats, that would be appreciated.
Cesar and Purita, Choyas Creek, District 9. At last, I heard our idol, Attorney Ferbert. We voted for you. My only comment, strictly, simply, the temporary stopping of money is an opportunity. Our focus should be to survive with whatever we have. I am speaking like a father and a mother. We have this much. I think that's the opportunity there. Why are we spending money and resources just to do some process to sue them? What will we get? Probably we can just put telegram, excuse me, let's continue the grant and money, period. And then focus on some solution on how to survive with what we have. That's fatherly advice. We did that. Why? We have real estate, by golly. We have Torrey Pines, the golf course, the public course. We have the Balboa Park where they're milking cows. We have the water authority, which we have given them so much money, and now we are being held up, blackmailed. Hey, councilors, approve this because they need money, because the other byproduct, which is dirt and slugs, will be in jeopardy. Please, let's dig deeper, find out, and do something. We have now a crisis how to sustain the survivability of those sick and dying victims of Tijuana River pollution, the victims of other issues like fire.
Thank you.
flood.
Your time has concluded. Next, we have Mary Davis.
Hi, good afternoon. Mary Davis here, government watchdog and citizen journalist. And I'm here in opposition to this for a few reasons. One is transparency. This makes you're going backwards in the transparency game when this comes to this. And so I'm asking you to reconsider, because I keep hearing that that's an aspiration for many of you, but your actions frequently do not match your words. Also is accountability. Switching to a passive opt-in system denies accountability to the public. As we just saw in item 203 for the continuance, you had a public vote and you are on record for owning that vote. If you go to this system, not only does the public not know what is coming before you and what you're being asked to participate, you're not on record because everybody has plausible deniability. I never saw the email. Not that I've ever used that excuse, but I would also be remiss in not pointing out that your quest to protect bodily autonomy via the reproductive rights is laughable and very subjective. As your accountability partner, I'm here to remind you about the grave harms that you imposed in 2021 through 2022 or 3 via your vaccine mandate on employees. Where was your concern for bodily autonomy then? While it is a subject I'm sure you like memory hold, there are those of us who do remember, and I want it on record. Lastly is opportunity cost. The city is on a fiscal cliff. You cannot afford to be going for wants over needs. Filing amicus briefs is a want, not a need. If you feel that strongly, then litigate the measure yourself. Hopping on the litigation bandwagon versus an amicus brief is a low priority. If your attorneys have that kind of time on their hand, please put them to one of the more essential duties, like slapping on a headset for 911 or going out and fighting a fire. This is political posturing. Thank you.
I've started the 5-minute timer. Going to those participating remotely. We currently have 6 people in the queue, starting with 5868. If you can please unmute. 5868, it's *6, there you go.
Okay, hi, my name is Karen Lee, and I would like to start just by saying I'm a legal immigrant of over 50 years, and I am pro-gay marriage and rights. I oppose this measure for 2 reasons. One, this proposal would give the city attorney's office authority to file or enjoin briefs or lawsuits with only an approval by default, i.e., if 3 or more council members do not reply to their notification memo, then by default, the city attorney has to go ahead. This could create a political action group within the city attorney's office, filing numerous legal briefs or suits with very little oversight. These potential filings need more scrutiny before approval, and it could also be a poor use of city funds and resources. We need to be very mindful of how the city spends their money because we're currently in a budget crisis. 2, I think it's hypocritical the council says it's for the rights of all San Diegans when the mayor and council denied the bodily autonomy of city employees when mandating an experimental gene therapy shot in order to keep their jobs, even though it was proven to be ineffective. Even though this proposal says it's to protect the constitutional rights of all San Diegans, specific wording relating to immigration, reproductive rights, and LGBTQ indicates a focus on specific political agendas. So I say no for lack of oversight and no because it's really a politically motivated action for this department. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lori Saldana, if you can please unmute.
So I admire the concept and the goals of this at a time when we are under unprecedented attack from unelected people operating in Washington. But the Brown Act is very clear that you need to report on this in open session. When it comes to amicus briefs, the Brown Act states, with respect to litigation, approval given to the body's legal counsel to defend, seek, or refrain from seeking appellate review, you need to let the public know. And you can do a direct docket, as you did with this. You can get that in front of the council very quickly. But you need to identify who the parties are, the substance of the litigation, if you decide to, and why you decided to initiate litigation. And once the litigation or intervention has been formally commenced, you must, upon inquiry, disclose that information to the public, unless to do so would jeopardize service or process and so on. In other words, the Brown Act makes no provision for what you are proposing today. And as a city council, I have reminded you many times, you have lost on other Brown Act appeals and violations. You have settled when the public has had to point out that you are in violation of process under the Brown Act. So I have complete respect for the goals and the aspirations to counter what one day may turn out to be criminal activity at the federal level. But I don't think that the local government should in turn violate state law in its efforts to counter violations of the law at the federal level. Now, there are several of you on the council who are attorneys. Some of you are licensed, some of you are not active. So take a look at the Brown Act, what it says about amicus briefs, and what it says about reporting in open session to the public about this type of litigation. And please comply with the Brown Act on this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kathleen Lippett. If you can please unmute.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Kathleen Lippett. I think it is reasonable that our electeds abide by the oaths of the office they took. You reference constitutional and statutory rights of residents to preserve the city's rights, but these briefs do not seem to be for the purpose of protecting residents. It was the city that determined to defy many federal laws, along with the state, such as federal drug laws like marijuana, federal immigration laws, and they have cost us dearly as terms of fiscal irresponsibility. Please consider the horrific outcomes, expenses, and unintended consequences and environmental harms that have since come to pass because of those decisions. They did not happen in a vacuum. The city has enough on its plate, or it should have. It should be paying attention to its the fiscal debt that it faces, because that could be the undoing. That is an existential threat to the city. We do not want to see the city have to go into conservatorship because it has not been able to keep its fiscal house in order. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Next, we have the original. If you can please unmute.
Dang, looks like it's coming to bite you guys in the butt. I've been telling you for over a year that what you guys have been doing by aiding and abetting and harboring illegal aliens was going to bite you in the butt. And look at what's happening. And you're acting like the federal government is acting criminally. You guys have been. That is the consequence of going against the rule of law. The oath that you took, it's treason, what you guys have been engaging in. And now you're going to want to spend the people's money to fight the federal government for upholding the law that you guys refuse to do, and then you wonder why funding is going to be cut? Are you that ignorant? Are all of you that ignorant and stupid? Or are you just so arrogant that you think that you're going to win against the federal government when you guys have been engaged in these crimes? You don't think that you're going to have a jail cell waiting for you to continue down this path? It is absolutely ridiculous that you guys think that spending the people's money to fight the federal government for upholding the law when you have been breaking it just so you can get more funding to do what with? What do you guys do with the funding that you get anyway? It goes into the pockets of people that don't deserve it, that are banking off the backs of people's suffering. It is atrocious to think that you guys are that dumb to think that you can do this and pull wool over the people's eyes, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, and then claiming what the federal government is doing is illegal. Oh my gosh. It is ridiculous because you guys take the rights of people left and right every freaking day that you are sitting up on that dais. And yet you want to go like, we're doing this to protect the rights of the people. Bullshit. I call bullshit. It smells like shit. And you guys are all going to be culpable and liable for the little girl that was raped because you did nothing about it. You incentivized it to happen, and you are culpable, and you deserve to be in jail.
Your time has concluded. Next is 8700. If you can please unmute. 5-minute timer has also concluded here in council chambers. We have one final speaker after Joyce Senyata. Please proceed.
Thank you, City Clerk Fuentes. Joyce Senyata, District 3. These are amazing times. It's an amazing time to be alive for me. I love grants. From the staff report, feds failed to consider the reliance interest of the mini grant recipients. So here's a question for you. Do we have a protection policy on the books now? Since this is called a process, are we honoring a policy? I'd love to know that and what that policy is. This is where we need a law guru. Thank you, City Attorney Heather Herbert. Congratulations on your winning. And thank the rest of your team. We need you. It could be a law war. I don't know. All of California is on your side, and key partners are on board with your team. Another question for you. Is this quick enough to enable the city to respond in a timely way? It still doesn't seem quick enough to me. This is a very tenuous time for all of us. We need you to include us in the circle. Love to all.
Thank you, Danny Avidia. Your final speaker, please unmute.
Yes, can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you, City Council. Good afternoon. My name is Danny Avitia, resident of District 3, and I want to start off by saying and thanking the City Attorney's Office for their work on this matter. I have full confidence in the City Attorney's ability to navigate this process with the due diligence and experience it requires. That said, this is an opportunity to ensure that San Diego has a voice in the judicial process, and at this time when it matters the most. Given that the political climate and the direction of the Supreme Court, we know that there will be decisions that do not reflect the city, our city's values. I also want to recognize the concerns raised about transparency in this process, raised by others today. And while legal matters are often discussed in closed session, it's critical that our public knows that they do have a stake in this. Our residents deserve to be informed, engaged, and assured that their city is fighting for them on issues when it comes to the Supreme Court and when it comes to the judicial process. So, while I want to make sure that there are the concerns raised by community members are addressed within this, I am very supportive of this initiative, and this is about ensuring that San Diego is not just reacting to judicial decisions, but actively shaping the legal landscape in defense of our values as a city. We must take this step to protect our community, our rights, and our ability to govern in the best interest of the people that we serve in this city. Thank you.
Thank you. That does conclude public comment on this item.
All right, thank you, City Clerk. We'll now go over to our colleagues on the council. This is an action item, so we will need a motion, and we'll start with Council Member Foster.
Yes, thank you, Council President, and thank you, Madam City Attorney, and to your staff for this important item. Streamlining the city's ability to file amicus briefs, join lawsuits, and engage in federal rulemaking challenges ensures San Diego can swiftly respond to policies impacting our residents and finances. While I do support this proposal and the need to expedite process due to short timelines, I do urge expanding its scope to include civil rights, anti-discrimination protections, and diversity programming for protected classes to ensure a more inclusive approach. We've seen time and time again how federal actions disproportionately affect Black communities and civil rights. The attacks on the Civil and Voting Rights Act, the gutting of diversity programs, and efforts to roll back anti-discrimination protections are not just history. They are happening today in real time. Under federal direction, we saw the Justice Department Civil Rights Division freeze its enforcement efforts, walking away from cases designed to protect vulnerable communities. An executive order eliminated DEI programs in the federal workforce, making it harder to address systemic inequities. And another order revoked equal employment opportunity rules undoing decades of protections in federal employment. We must be prepared to respond when these rights come under attack and impact San Diegans, whether it's voting access, discrimination protections, or diversity programs. Strengthening this authority will better serve our residents. Thus, I move staff's recommendation with the addition of the issue area of 1, civil rights, 2, anti-discrimination protections, and 3, diversity programming for protected classes. And thank you, Council President, and that concludes my comments.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Foster. So we do have a motion, and I think we'll get that printed up and circulated so everybody understands how it is amended. Oh, you got it up there on the screen already. Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Councilmember Foster, for that language. We'll go next to Councilmember Elo Rivera.
Thank you, Council President. Let me begin by offering a second to Councilmember Foster's motion. Appreciate the additional language that he's added. Thank you, Madam City Attorney, for bringing us this item. You know, it's kind of a sad state of affairs that we need to have this in front of us, because the speed and volume of illegal activity that the federal administration is engaging in right now, but we're here, and I do think that this is a good way to make sure that there is some process without hamstringing your ability to respond, as the city and as the residents of the city will depend on you to do so. I also, while being fully supportive of this and the seeing the value of legal action, I think it's important for all of us to recognize that our rights, our constitutional rights, only matter to the extent to which the law is respected and enforced. And we are dealing with an administration that has already shown not just a willingness, but an eagerness to act lawless. And so I want to make sure that none of us are under any illusions that the courts will save us or our communities. I think, and I'm reflecting a lot on this, and I think that we as a council need to, in partnership with the mayor, ensure that we are all taking the actions necessary to protect our community and continue to move our communities forward in the ways that they need and deserve us to move them forward. This is going to be a community-wide project, and again, I just can't stress this enough. We're not going to be saved by the courts. We're not going to be saved by Congress. We're going to need to act stronger as a community, and that's going to need to also mean, I think, being a little bit more explicit as a city about where we stand on some of these issues, because our communities are looking to us, and now is not the time to be silent. So with that, thank you again, Councilmember Foster. I think your inclusions are extremely important. I'm appreciative of the item being brought forward, and we'll be happy to support it. Thank you, Council President.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion by Councilmember Foster to move the staff recommendation as amended and shown on the screen, with a second by Councilmember Elo Rivera. Would you be okay with the city attorney going first? Thank you.
Thank you, and I just wanted to clarify in my comments, we would be reporting out once the city was joined into an amicus brief or initiation of litigation, that would be reported in our office's litigation logs that we publish and release to you regularly, pursuant to the rules of council.
All right, you beat me to the question. Did you want to speak, Councilmember Baum-Wolford?
Thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you to the city attorney for all the incredible work you do. I remember trying to get amicus briefs before the council, and they're hard deadlines, and they're important issues that the 8th largest city in the nation should be weighing in on. I also want to point out that we have 2 attorneys from our ACE unit here, Affirmative Civil Enforcement, and they actually bring money into the city by enforcing laws that protect our environment, that protect consumers, enforce laws against businesses that break the law. And so I just want to thank you for all the work you do to actually bring revenue back to the city and enforcing rights that our residents need. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And then just to expand for folks that may not be familiar, in the municipal code under the rules of council, there is a Rule 8 that talks about a weekly litigation log, and that is what the city attorney is referring to. And as I understand, Madam City Attorney, that you would summarize your work or any amicus briefs that you filed in that weekly log.
Yeah, we'd be happy to include, once action is initiated, we would include our joining of whatever the case may be in that log.
All right, thank you. And not seeing anybody else in the lights, again, we have a motion by Councilmember Foster, seconded by Councilmember Elo Rivera, to move the staff recommendation as amended and shown on the screen. Clerk, please call the vote.
I've started the voting system. Please cast your vote. And that passes unanimously 9-0.
All right, thank you for that very good work. Clerk, please introduce item 200.
Item 200 is the fiscal year 2024 annual comprehensive financial report, or the ACFR. If you'd like to speak on this item, please be sure to raise your hand by tapping the raise your hand icon or *9, or if you are here in council chambers, please be sure to submit your speaker slip to the white inbox at the front of the room. Thank you.
All right. Staff, as you settle in, please introduce yourselves for the record and let us know how much time you will need.
Good afternoon, Jeff Peel. I'm an assistant director with the Department of Finance. I'm here with William Wiseman, financial operations manager with the Department of Finance, and Kathy Lai, a partner with Crow LLP. We'll leave about 12 minutes for our combined presentation.
All right, please proceed.
All right. We are here to present the fiscal year 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, the ACFR. Will and I will present our part of the presentation, and then we will hand it over to Kathy, who oversaw the audit engagement for her part of the presentation. This year was the first year the city had a new external auditor in 15 years. I would like to thank Kathy, Joseph, and the rest of the Crow staff for their work on the audit. A transition year between firms is always a huge undertaking, and we appreciate their work in meeting all the deadlines. The ACFR is prepared based on accounting standards established by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board for all state and local governments. Entities are required to follow these standards for consistency and comparability to other governments. The main users of this document are investors and rating agencies. This document helps the city in issuing bonds, commercial paper, and other financing mechanisms. Rating agencies develop credit ratings based on information in the ACFR, and the document also provides a starting point for the budget development process. The ACFR is very different from the budget monitoring reports. These are financial statements as of June 30th, 2024. It is a backward-looking document that provides a snapshot of the city's finances, as well as critical disclosures that supplement those numbers. Management is responsible for monitoring the internal controls over financial reporting. The city has put in place many controls to reduce the risk over financial reporting, such as multiple reviews based on materiality, checklists, department director certification, as well as certification from the Disclosure Practices Working Group, DPWG. The ACFR is made of 3 sections. The first section is the introductory section, which includes the letter of transmittal, the LOT. The LOT provides details about the city, major accomplishments, and economic trends that have happened within the fiscal year. This section also includes a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for FY23, making this the 10th consecutive year the city has received this honor. Our department has submitted the FY24 ACFR to GFOA for consideration of this award. The next section is the financial section, which includes the city's external auditor's opinion, the management discussion and analysis, or MD&A, financial statements, and note disclosures. The MD&A details material variances within the government-wide statements. And the third section is the statistical section, which provides data to help users assess the city's economic condition. The data includes financial trends, revenue and debt capacity, demographics, statistics, and economic information.
So for new GASB standards implemented for FY24, we were fortunate to get a bit of a break with new implementations this year. After a few years of leases, there were no new major GASB implementations this year. Elements of GASB 99, Omnibus 2022 became effective in phases over the last couple of years. This year's changes were largely related to derivative investments and exchange or exchange-like financial guarantees that did not have an impact on the city financial statements. GASB 100 standardizes accounting and financial reporting for error corrections and accounting changes. This applies to changes in accounting principles or estimates, corrections of errors, and changes within the reporting entity. This did not have a material impact on the 2024 ACFR, but will continue to guide how these types of scenarios are accounted for in future years. While this is not a new GASB statement, there was one significant update to the implementation guide regarding capital assets. Question 5.1 in the implementation guide clarifies that individual assets which fall below established capitalization thresholds must be capitalized in aggregate cost of similar assets, if the aggregate cost of similar assets is significant. This did not ultimately have a material impact on the financial statements, but it was a substantial change in our process to make sure we're capturing and assessing citywide de minimis purchases for capital assessment. To cover some major fund highlights, the Consolidated General Fund ended with a total fund balance of $530.4 million. Reserves remained at FY23 levels with emergency reserves of $107.6 million and stability reserves of $99.5 million. The Water Fund had a total net position of $2.3 billion, which represents a decrease of less than 1% over FY23, and the Sewer Fund ended with a total net position of $2.8 billion, representing a 1% increase over the prior year.
Our external auditor, Crowe, completed their audit on December 18th and found no significant deficiencies and no material weaknesses in internal controls. It was a clean audit opinion. That concludes our presentation, and I'll pass it over to Kathy Lai, a partner with Crowe, for their part of the presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Lai, for the record, and I'm a partner with Crowe and the lead engagement partner for the City of San Diego. I'm just pleased to present the audit results for the fiscal year 2024. But before I begin, I just wanted to express appreciation to my Crowe engagement team. It takes a lot of time and effort to conduct these audits, and likewise express appreciation to management for their cooperation throughout the audit. I've got a brief agenda here for you today. First, I wanted to cover the audit objectives, what we were engaged to do for the city. Second, our audit results, and last but not least, some required communications under our professional standards. So Crowe was engaged to perform the audit of the financial statements for the City of San Diego for the June 30th, 2024 fiscal year, and our job is to express an opinion on whether or not those financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. As an auditor, I'm required to follow generally accepted auditing standards, and also because the city is a recipient of federal grants, and we've been engaged to perform our audit in accordance also with generally accepted government auditing standards, or GAGS for short. Those standards require us to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Those are our responsibilities. It's also really important to note management's responsibilities. Management is responsible for the compilation and the fair presentation of those financial statements in accordance with GAAP, as well as all internal controls over financial reporting. Our audit includes a consideration of those internal controls, but we don't express an opinion over those. Now for the audit results, I'm pleased to report for the annual comprehensive financial report, we have issued an unmodified opinion. Just to reiterate and explain what that means, if my opinion says that the financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and that statement is unmodified, that's actually very good news. It's the highest level of assurance that we can express. In tandem with that, we've also been engaged to perform other various audits, like the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District Audit, where we also expressed an unmodified opinion. As Jeff had mentioned earlier, we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses to bring to your attention today. So for the last part of my communications, I just wanted to go over some required communications and our professional standards. First is with respect to significant accounting policies. Management has disclosed a summary of their significant accounting policies in footnote 1 of the annual comprehensive financial report. We have reviewed those, and we have nothing to report in relation to those policies. Second is management's judgments and accounting estimates. Certainly any set of financial statements includes such estimates. A great example of that would be estimates related to pension liabilities or post-retirement healthcare liabilities, or OPEB for short. We have reviewed those accounting estimates as well as assumptions and find them to be appropriate, and nothing to report here today. As Jeff had already mentioned, or Will had mentioned, there was the adoption of certain new accounting standards. I mentioned earlier that our job is to express an opinion on whether or not those financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, or GASB for short, establishes what those generally accepted accounting principles are. And each year they come up with new accounting standards that management needs to review and consider for implementation and impact on their financials. The ones listed are the ones that Will has already covered, but they're GASB 99, GASB 100, and then a couple of implementation guides that revisit different standards and addresses a variety of Q&A with regard to implementation of a variety of standards. Management has reviewed those and determined that that impact was not material to their financial statements, and we agree with their assessment. Moving on here, I'm pleased to report that we did not note any material corrected or uncorrected misstatements to bring to your attention today. And last but not least, we did not note any of these items that are listed here on the slide. And most importantly, I wanted to confirm that Crowe, as your external auditor, is independent of the City of San Diego. And with that, I'm happy to address any questions that you might have.
Right, and that concludes the presentation?
It does.
Wanted to make sure. Clerk, please proceed with public comment.
Cesar Javier, if you can please come forward. And ma'am, if you have a speaker slip, please come forward as well. Jen Berry will go and collect the speaker slip from you. Cesar, you'll have 2 minutes. Please proceed.
Cesar and Purita, I believe you, ma'am. Based on what you see, the tangible things that you have seen, their preparation, and they were awarded. Very good. But did you see the intangible result of the spending of this money? We have more and more sick and dying homeless people. We spend money. It's there, very clear. Iba, in the presentation, you know, Councilor Rivera, we are consistent student. Councilor Lacaba, gentlemanly, I say to you, we learn from the presentation. Tangible? What about the result of that expenses? Tangible. We have homeless people. We have sick and dying. We have not, you know, we are afraid to drink water from the faucet. We use only for washing and probably for rice cooking, but not for actual drinking. We have to buy from dispensing machine, which Sweetwater Authority declared that, oh, that's not safe. Be careful. Boil it to be safe. Money is spent for pure water. Money for the pure water and money to cleanse that sludge that will go into the tributaries down to the ocean. Money spent. And why are we desperate to improve and improve and improve and attain decent home and suitable surroundings? Those are the tangible results of those tangible written in the comprehensive report. It doesn't tally. Ma'am, sirs, it doesn't tally.
Thank you. That
And
does
that is
conclude your
corruption.
time. Next is Andrea.
Thank you. Again, my name is Andrea. I just want to comment on the budget findings and wanted to, again, go back to the budget town hall meeting that was held in Mira Mesa last week. And one of the proposals that I brought to the table to help fix the $258 million deficit we have was to lower or remove other pay. When I discussed that, the auditor said he wasn't sure what I was talking about. Other pay is $142 million paid out to city employees in San Diego in 2023. That was in addition to $145 million in overtime. The auditor told me that this was for fringe benefits, this was for car allowances, pensions, healthcare, but it's not. Pensions, healthcare, fringe benefits, all of that's separate. It's on Transparent California and anybody can see it, and $142 million is a lot of money. It's half the amount of money that's missing right now. When he realized that I'm clear on what I'm talking about, and I mentioned that several people are making $500,000 a year, doing the same job as their colleagues who are making 60, he immediately cut me off and told me that he likes Transparent California too, because he likes to know how much people are making, and he's going to look into it. But $142 million is a lot of money to be missing. And if you ask me, I don't think that's good auditing standards, and I think there's something wrong with the report. You might want to look at it again. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to start the 5-minute timer here in council chambers, going to those participating remotely. Currently have 4 people with their hands raised, starting with 8700. If you can please unmute. 8700, *6 to unmute. I can't unmute for you. There you go.
Thank you, City Clerk Fuentes. Joyce and Yada. I have 2 minutes, right?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you, sorry. 3 key thank yous first, because I already spoke on this before at committee. FY24 audit, I believe, ACFR independent auditor. Thank you, Crow LLP, for your unmodified audit opinion. Thank you, City Disclosure Practices Working Group, for your review and certification. Thank you, Mayor Gloria, for the city's strategic plan operating principle of trust and transparency by using financial data to make better informed decisions, ensure questions, and build trust with the public. Here's the point from me. Monitoring and internal controls by management. Trust on this process is based on public trust of the accountability and transparency shown. Crow LLP, welcome on board, by the way. I look forward to your first award being given to you for June 30th, 2024 fiscal year. And I want to just thank you for doing diligence for the people of San Diego. This needs to continue and it needs to improve. I think you know that. And we're counting on you for that. So thank you for your work so far. And I look forward to more work for you. And I really, really am excited that the award is going to come. So perhaps we'll hear Council Member Moreno take the stand and speak with the questions I love that come for her. I don't know if I'm right on that. So thanks for listening, everybody, and love to all.
Thank you. The original, if you can please unmute.
Dang, Andrea, or whatever her name is on fire, letting you guys know and the people exactly what's going on in the city of San Diego. It's so funny listening to these reports because I hear like, wah, 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 like the Peanuts, like, you know, mom or whatever, and you just can't understand it because it's just a bunch of nonsense that tries to make it look like what the city is doing is legit, that there's not, you know, racketeering going on, when in fact we know there is. That's why listening to Andrea, it's like, see, that's the kind of report I'm talking about. That's what needs to happen. That's the kind of information that needs to be given to the people for transparency and accountability, because all you guys do is go like, no, everything is fine. Everything is good. We're doing everything that we need to. And San Diego is so beautiful. It's the best place to live. And when reality, it's like a cesspool, and you guys like literally make money off the backs of people, and they're suffering, like I say all the time. And it's so disturbing because you're not the one suffering and having to like live in certain conditions, but you are the ones that like make that happen for all these other people, like the homeless or whatever it is. And it is just so interesting that you guys can be so like seemingly aloof to like what's really going on. And it takes people like Andrea and like people like me or other people who are doing investigative journalism to really go in there and expose all of the nefarious things that you guys are doing and where all the money goes. Because you want to say it goes here, it goes there, but we know where it goes. And I just love when you guys are exposed, because you guys will be the makers of your own demise. It's not going to be anybody but you because of the choices that you make. So keep going, because you guys are going to get a jail cell from the federal government.
Your time has concluded. Next is Lori Saldana. If you can please unmute.
Yes, appreciate the report. Had no doubt that the budget process would not be a cause of concern. The city has professional expertise. They contract with other experts. So it's not the process, it's the outcomes. And I think the people who have been criticizing those outcomes have a point in terms of, as others have noted, we have still persistent water quality concerns. And we have housing concerns, and homelessness is at record highs. And so the process of the city spending funds, which should be an investment for residents, is not reflected in this report. And it wasn't intended to be. It was simply showing how money flowed, how was it accounted for, and if those accounting tools were applied properly, and clearly they were. On the other hand, the policies that the city has promoted in recent years have done a lot to, unfortunately, undermine the economic stability of San Diegans. We have record high homelessness, and yet the city council approved an ordinance for short-term vacation rentals that allowed thousands of homes to be removed from permanent residency into short-term residency. And now that enriched the CEO of Airbnb, who is about to join the team in Washington, D.C., and begin to influence HUD programs and staffing. So now the short-term vacation rentals have transferred homeowner wealth in San Diego into the hands of fewer and fewer people. San Diego is paying the price with increasing homelessness. So I appreciate these reports. They show that the city is complying with all applicable accounting regulations and laws. But when you walk out tonight and you go down the sidewalk and you see more and more people without housing, I hope that's what you consider. Not so much are you complying with accounting regulations, but are you spending the money in the best way to help people?
Your time has concluded. Our next speaker is Kathleen Lippett. Please unmute. You are our final speaker, and the 5-minute timer has concluded.
Good afternoon. It's really disheartening that debt, whether it's individual, city, county, state, or national, it's a threat to our autonomy. It is an existential threat, and responsible families, they don't use their credit cards to continue funding lifestyles that put their families at risk. Responsible adults accept the responsibility for feeding, clothing, and housing the families that they create. They don't borrow money from their children or for more responsible relatives to paper over their debt. The city has failed to acknowledge that it has increased spending on their salaries, on their pensions, on increased management positions, and at the same time, they've issued bonds, they borrow money, they use reserve funds, they do deficit spending, federal, state, and they get federal, state, and aid, which they call free money. It is not free money. It is taxpayer money. They delay payments, and they do public-private partnerships that are often questionable. Now there is a proposed trash fee. Those trash fees were supposed to be paid by property taxes. Property in California, and especially in the city of San Diego, has gone up exponentially in value. Those values translated to extra money to the city. And now it wasn't enough. The city still doesn't have enough money to cover what it wants to spend. And what you want and what you need, those are very different, and I hope that you will start considering how to distinguish between those two. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. That does conclude public comment on this item.
All right, thank you, City Clerk. We'll turn it over to the council for questions and comments. Entertain a motion. We'll start out with the chair of the Audit Committee, Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation at our Audit Committee hearing on the ACFR. I asked a lengthy series of questions to our independent auditor, to Crow, and the Department of Finance staff. I was satisfied at the conclusion of the discussion that the ACFR is accurate in its representation and reporting of the financial statements of all funds of the city and its component units. Thank you to our Department of Finance staff for producing this report. I know it takes a lot of time and effort, and it always comes out great. So thank you for that. And also, thank you to our Disclosure Practice Working Group for your review of the report. Finally, I do want to thank outside auditor Crow for your independent review. You are newly minted auditor for us, outside auditor, so you got to answer all my questions. And those are questions that I ask every single year just to make sure that we're getting, the most up-to-date information. So I will move staff's recommendation, Council President, and that does conclude my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion by Councilmember Moreno to move the staff recommendation. We'll go next to Councilmember Whitburn, also a member of the Audit Committee.
Thank you, and I will second the motion. It's obviously important that the public have confidence in the city's financial reporting. I want to recognize our city staff for the clean audit again, and for again receiving a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting for the previous year. So well done, and thank you.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion by Councilmember Moreno and a second by Councilmember Whitburn to move the staff recommendation. I'll too add my thanks to the Department of Finance, the work you do, in addition to the work by the outside auditor. Very much appreciated. With that, clerk, please call the roll.
Started the voting system. Please cast your vote. And that does pass unanimously, 9-0.
All right, thank you again for the work. Clerk, please introduce item 202.
Item 202 is the Development Impact Fees DIF Annual Report for fiscal year 2023, CIP allocations and Torrey Highlands Restricted Facilities Benefit Assessment Fund loan repayment. If you'd like to speak to this item, please be sure to submit your speaker slip to the high speaker slip area at the front of the room, and or if you are participating remotely, this is a time to raise your hand by pressing *9 or the raise your hand icon. Thank you.
All right, staff, as you settle in, please introduce yourselves for the record and let us know how much time you need for your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Samira Rao, Assistant Deputy Director with the City Planning Department. I will need 12 to 15 minutes for the presentation.
All right, thank you.
This afternoon, we bring forward the Development Impact Fee Report, in addition to a comprehensive report on the development impact fees. This item includes repayment of a loan from the Torrey Highlands Restricted Festies Benefit Assessment Fund to the Rancho Penasquitos Restricted Festies Benefit Assessment Fund. This item also includes a request for City Council approval to appropriate development impact fee funds towards a list of specific capital improvement projects to further spend down community-specific funds that have long been difficult to expend. As discussed briefly, this package includes 3 items. The city is required by the Mitigation Fee Act to provide an annual report on the development impact fee to the City Council. This act mandates that local agencies with DIF programs make specific information available to the public and establish certain findings related to the DIF funds that has been in the account and unallocated for a period of 5 years or longer. This annual report will be presented to the City Council to satisfy the requirements of the Mitigation Fee Act. In addition, we are requesting City Council approval to allocate community-specific DIF funds that have been in the account for over 5 years to 5 specific infrastructure projects in Carmel Valley and North University. This will allow the city to expend funds and invest in these communities rather than refunding the fees. The Mitigation Fee Act also includes requirements to report on any interfund loan transfers. As part of this action, we are also requesting City Council approval for repayment of such a loan from Torrey Highlands Festies Benefit Assessment Fund to the Rancho Penasquitos Festies Benefit Assessment Fund using citywide mobility DIF funds. Development impact fees are fees imposed on projects to cover all or a portion of the cost of public infrastructure needed due to new growth and development. The report provides information on the type of fees and amount of the fee, beginning and ending fund balance, amount of fees collected, and interest earned, projects funded, and any interfund transfers or loans made, and also provides findings for funds that have been in the fund for over 5 years and have not yet been allocated. The report in front of you today is for fiscal year 2023, and it's important to note that the citywide development impact fee funds for parks, development impact fees for parks, mobility, library, and fire were adopted with pipeline clauses to facilitate a smooth transition from community-specific fees to citywide fees. For this reporting period, the citywide parks DIF was fully in effect, but citywide mobility, fire, and library had not taken effect yet. In addition to the effective date of the adopted programs, State Bill 330 requires that if an application for a development was submitted before the new fees went into effect, the applicant is entitled to the lower of the 2 fees, meaning that in many instances, still applicants continue to pay into the community-specific funds. For that reason, a complete transition from community-specific funds to citywide funds is anticipated to take multiple years. Outside of the reporting period, around $42 million have been collected in citywide diffs, and around $40 million have been allocated to various projects across the city, meaning that as we collect the money, we are allocating the money, which was a key restriction under the old program that the transition to citywide fees sought to change. While the report goes into a lot of detail regarding each of the funds, revenue collected and expended, total fees collected for FY 2023 was around $58.1 million, and the city was able to expend around $66 million on infrastructure projects. This is a step in the right direction, as we have been able to successfully expend development impact fee funds on the much needed infrastructure projects across the city. This has helped significantly by having access to citywide development impact fee funds to be able to make up any funding gaps from community-specific funds. It is, however, important to note that development impact fees are just one of the several funding sources to fund infrastructure and continue to be a critical component and support the capital improvement program's budget to provide the much needed infrastructure. One of the actions we are proposing with this item is for City Council approval to appropriate community-specific funds that have been in the account for over 5 years towards the following projects. These appropriations will further support the city's efforts to reduce the fund balances in community-specific funds. In September 2020, the City Council approved a reimbursement agreement with Seabreeze 56 LLC for the design and construction of 5 public infrastructure projects in Torrey Highlands and Rancho Penasquitos, with an estimated total cost of $37.66 million. Funding was primarily planned from the Torrey Highlands Festies Benefit Assessment Fund, but a $5.94 million inter-fund loan was made from Rancho Penasquitos was authorized to cover anticipated shortfalls and essentially provide an advance of funds from Rancho Penasquitos to Torrey Highlands. This advance must now be repaid to Rancho Penasquitos by March of 2026. Because projects in Torrey Highlands now pay into the citywide diff rather than the community-specific Torrey Highlands Fund, City Council approval to utilize $4.3 million from the citywide mobility diff to repay the loan in FY 2026 is requested. The improvements align with and were accounted for in the citywide mobility nexus study. It should also be noted that this obligation arises out of a reimbursement agreement, which at the time of the citywide fees were adopted, were anticipated to be paid from citywide funds where community-specific funds were no longer available because that development transitioned to paying into the citywide funds. Overall, it is anticipated that development in Torrey Highlands will ultimately contribute more than the currently requested loan amount of approximately $4.3 million that citywide diff is paying, because when the anticipated and planned life sciences and additional housing development anticipated to come forward are estimated to contribute between $6.5 million to $18 million, depending on ultimate size and scope of the projects. As next steps, city planning staff will continue to bring the annual DIF report to the City Council each year and will also work on keeping the citywide development impact fee nexus studies updated and current to meet the infrastructure needs of the community members across the city due to new growth and development. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your presentation. Clerk, please proceed with public comment.
Thank you, Council President. We have Cesar Javier here in Council Chambers. If you can please come forward.
Cesar and Purita, thank you for the presentation. You are urban planners, but we need a vector, not just direction. I observed that of the 9 districts, the fat pig gets more than the small pig, which the small pig has so many baby pigs like District 9. We are diverse and populated. You count the number of people there, we deserve more on planning, decent home, suitable surroundings, clean air, clean food, clean land, clean water. Oh my God, what's happening? La Jolla has new trucks to collect trashes. They have more physical development than District 9, District 4. And yet, we are trying to condense, reduce the space in between houses, like this terrible footnote number 7. When we plan for the human survivability, not just the physical shelter, not just the circulatory or we call mobility, but man, humans. The white, the black, the green, the blue. We are missing the vector. Please, let's focus on.
I've started the 5-minute timer here in council chambers. I'm going to those participating remotely. 8700, if you can please unmute. You do have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, City Clerk, and thanks for clarifying that, City Clerk Fuentes. By the way, thank you for what you reported on earlier today. We really appreciate any time you can tweak things for the public and usage of the website and so forth. Love you for that. So on the diff item here, I am so fascinated by the appropriations process. I don't really understand it. And I think it is not a clear process, and it isn't meant to be a clear process because it's very subjective. And it's meant to be subjective. It's just the way it is. So there's 5 appropriations listed here. And now the Coast Rail Trail, I love that item. And yet I'm beginning to get a little bit wary of these $15 million items, higher, lower, because of what we're heading into now and what we're already in on the budget and so forth, and now the federal implications. So I don't know where to go with these things. It's been rolling and we got to honor it. So 15 million is a lot. So anyway, wow, a whole lot of funds are moving around, aren't they? As a public, I just can't find the accountability and transparency and all that confusion for me to understand it. So, and there's an accumulation of a significant amount of the funding, that's been accumulated over time. I think it's 5 years. And now we've got this issue with, I don't know if that's an issue, but the citywide diff thing that we went to from the community item. So I didn't, it's complicated. And I'm just, I don't have the time to understand it. I don't have the law degree and so forth, but I trust the process because it's what we've got. And we're still here, we're in together, and we're taking one step at a time. Let's stay together and hear all the voices.
Your time has
everybody.
concluded. My apologies. Next is the original. If you can please unmute.
Joy, it's intentionally confusing. That's the whole point. They can't have people understanding what's going on, because if they did, then they would see exactly what's happening. It's interesting because you're like, we make sure to expend these funds as soon as we get them, kind of a thing. And then you're like, these funds have been in the fund for years, 5 years. And it's funny because then you're going to be giving these funds to somebody and then they're going to pay some diff funds when they put forward the project. It's like, could you just almost like cancel all that out? I mean, just interesting to see the way, the city works and does all of these things to, seemingly make things better. But I don't know. I mean, the proof is in the pudding when you see what's going on around the city, that you guys are failing miserably. And, it's just interesting because, people get paid more money just to have things get worse. It's like, like you're not going to be able to make the money unless you engage in that kind of behavior, which is sad because it would be like that kind of a person. Somebody who would want to make things better for the city would actually be cut out of being able to do that. But I mean, hey, if you want to destroy things, join the crew and we'll like fill your pockets with a bunch of money, And so, yeah, we'll see what happens with this. And, you know, if these DIF funds continue to be used for something that will better the community, or if, you know, it's just going to, again, go into the pockets of somebody else, like your friends, you know. I mean, how cool is that you can be like, hey, I'm going to have my friends come in and put forward a project or pretend to do it, and then we're just going to fill their pockets with money. It doesn't really matter if it gets done. It doesn't really matter if, you know, because we'll make some excuse as to why it didn't happen. So I don't know. It's just, I'm really looking forward to the federal government coming after you guys.
Thank you. Next is Lori Saldana. If you can please unmute.
Thank you for the reports. Thank you for explaining the process. It is a dense network of funds that within the city. The one question I've often had is the interest that is being charged on interfund loans, because it seems like the city is charging interest. And I'm specifically looking at the interfund loans on page 27 and 28 that have to do with back in September 2020, the council approved an ordinance authorizing a reimbursement agreement and basically an interfund loan of up to $7.1 million that came from Rancho Penasquito's funds over to the Torrey Highlands funds. And at various points it notes that the interest payment, the city has a variable pooled interest rate over the term covered by the interest payment. So perhaps at one point, the council could explain to people how you charge interest on money that's coming from internal funds. The interfund loan program, the interest on the loan is paid annually. You come up with some calculation of what to charge. It would be interesting for the public, myself included, to understand how that is arrived at and who is making the profit on that loan when the city loans itself money from one fund to another. I appreciate that these programs are proceeding, that they wouldn't be able to proceed without these transfers, these interfund transfers. But the fact that they are loans versus transfers has always raised a question of how the city does its accounting that way. And perhaps I need to go back to the previous agenda item, and it will explain it a little bit there of how you are charging yourself interest on interfund loan programs. Thank you.
Thank you. That does conclude public comment on this item.
All right, thank you, City Clerk. We'll now turn it over to the council for questions, comments, and entertain a motion. And we'll start with Council Member Von Wilpert.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the work in the presentation. We heard this item at committee. I asked many of the questions there. I do have one I did want to follow up on, though, about the fire department and the citywide DIF fee for fire. I'd asked at committee to make sure that we are still going to be following the Citygate study or the direction of the fire department as to where and when fire stations need to be built.
Yeah, we are going to be following that study. We are also going to be undertaking updates to our citywide nexus studies. That includes the fire nexus study, and we anticipate having that work completed this calendar year.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. I'd love for you to bring to Public Safety Committee an update on the nexus study for the fire department. That'd be great. Thank you. I'm also happy to make the motion to approve staff's recommendation. I do have another question just in general about the amount of DIF fees we're collecting. When we switch to citywide DIF, are we sure we're getting enough money? Because $58.1 million collected in the fiscal year, that probably won't cover the construction of even one building at this point.
So remember that development impact fees fund anywhere from 1% to 5% of the city's capital improvement program each year. So it is a small percentage overall, and they are not intended to fund the entirety of the city's CIP program because the projects have to be attributable to the new development. We are a city that is largely built out, and so our ability to fund infrastructure from the developer fees is much more limited compared to the overall needs of the city. That being said, one of the reasons why we have a hard time transitioning to citywide fees is because we do have state laws that are in effect that hinder our ability to impose new fees.
So to the extent that there were fee increases associated with the citywide fees that were brought forward, those have been delayed in implementation due to SB 330 for projects that have had applications submitted before that time. We do anticipate the revenue to increase over the coming years, but as I mentioned earlier, we are also going to be updating our citywide nexus studies. So those are for the 4 assets: mobility, fire, library, and parks, and anticipate having that effort completed this year to evaluate your questions further.
Okay, so the Nexus study will be the first step in determining if we need to increase a fee?
That is correct.
Okay.
And if I can just take this minute to say that that is one of the key benefits of of transitioning to the 4 citywide fees as opposed to the over 50 community-specific funds. It is much more feasible for us to regularly update and monitor our program with 4 funds rather than 50. That being said, my staff still has a very tall order because we do have legacy funds, and we are still monitoring many, many, many funds through our reporting and expenditure efforts.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Heidi. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you keeping us in touch, especially about the Nexus studies and what we're going to do. And as you said, it's not the only funding for CIPs, but we're trying to find funding everywhere we can at this point. So, all right, I'll make the motion. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Von Wilpert to move the staff recommendation, and we have a second by the chair of the ATI committee, Councilmember Whitburn. Not seeing anybody else in the lights. I too will join in and thank you for the very good work in tracking all these. And especially the allocations in the Carmel Valley FBA, which does have leftover funds to be able to tackle some very much needed community projects there. So thank you for that. With that, clerk, please call the roll.
I started the voting system. Please cast your vote. And that does pass unanimously 9-0. Thank you.
All right. As a reminder, item 203 was continued till March 17th, 2025 at 2 p.m. And so with that, we will now take up non-agenda public comment. The council members respect and appreciate the public's input and are fully committed to protecting every participant's free speech rights at council and committee meetings. Clerk, please proceed with non-agenda public comment.
Thank you, Council President. Per Rule 2.7, non-agenda public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. Please note if there are 8 or more speakers on a particular topic, the time will be 16 minutes for that topic. If you are in chambers, please submit your speaker slip. If you're joining us virtually, please raise your hand to speak by tapping the raise your hand icon, or if you are a call-in participant, *9. If I can have Cesar Javier and Purita Javier please come up to the microphone. After that is Mary Davis and then Andrea.
Cesar and Purita, come on.
Good afternoon. Ceramics manufacturing and clone industrial activity, a home occupation permitted to operate at 5238 Streamview Drive, San Diego, California 92105. A neighborhood designated residential zone has been an environment air pollution problem since 1984. Since through research and studies explains that the hazards of ceramics, specifically the repetitive burning and baking clay mixed with chemicals, produces highly toxic gases which potentially impact the health and safety of humans, flora and fauna, and the environment. Quality air that sustain life, allowing the continued operation of ceramics manufacturing in residential zone is in violation of the following. Number 1, California Land Use and Planning. laws on variance provides that the use of land must be in accord.
Thank you. Next, Caesar.
Also a victim of this toxicity. I gave my declaration at the end of the meeting in December 2024 through the clerk personnel and handed personally to President Council Member Lacaba. In that declaration, sir, the owner of this business had declared that he was not using the ceramic kiln for a year. That means that the poison gas we were talking here at the Air Pollution Control District with my classmate has, according to him, in writing, stopped. Good news. Why? Because we were ramping up our protests, according to him, at City Hall, at Air Pollution Control District, at Sandag, and at the county. I gave the same declaration to Madam Nora Vargas as she stepped down on that particular week, December. I gave also that declaration to the CEO Sandag. That is our now that niche to show you, to convey to you that indeed that ceramics manufacturing and kiln operation should not be there because it creates, it emits, it produces toxic gases. What more proof that we could provide you to know, to believe, to understand that we are suffering? Even our doctors. Good that we have two respective hospitals, KP and Sharp.
Thank you for that
Please
concluding
help us.
comment.
This is
Mary
our
Davis,
gateway
it's
to know
your
you.
turn.
Thank you.
Hi, just real quick, is there a timer so I can see how much time I have? Oh, right there. Okay,
That
thank
timer
you.
right there,
Yes,
yeah.
thank you.
I'll reset it for 2
Thank you so
o'clock,
much.
sorry.
Hi, yes, Mary Davis here, and so I'm just asking you, please, actually, no, I'm imploring you, please focus and get your financial house in order and focus on getting your priorities straight. That means absolutely taking care of needs before wants. Many of you may know, some of you don't, that I am a retired 911 dispatcher, a police supervisor from the city. And so that's my vested interest in this, and I continue to advocate for them. And you continue every year to be paying out a lot in litigation for trip and falls, but I also hearken you back to 2015 and 2016 in the 911 crisis when, like, the child died, they couldn't get through on 911 because of the pit bull attack, or somebody sat in their home for 7 minutes because they couldn't get through on 911. As I look through the reports, and I hope you do pay attention to those, they look good on the surface. They're at 98% the last couple months, 89. That's what you're striving for, and that's kind of like meets expectations. The number that really jumped out at me is those that are on hold for 120 seconds or more. That's 2 minutes. If you have 6 minutes of brain oxygen and they spend 2 minutes on hold, that's setting the city up for liability and a dispatcher up for trauma. Also, one of the reports shows 203 calls waited a minute or more. Again, completely unacceptable. So I'm asking you to bring in more dispatchers, pay them more, get that up, and that's why the amicus brief thing, I mean, I see people doing discretionary things while your critical infrastructure and your critical essential employees are going underpaid and understaffed. The solution in 2015 was, for some reason, to bring men in as officers to do more, to do less and get paid more, while the female classification suffered and had our raise trickled out over a year and a half. That was unacceptable. So please focus on priorities.
Thank you for that concluding comment. Next is Andrea.
Hello. Thank you again for having me. I would like to go back to the $142 million in other pay. And just note that I have grave concern that there is a kickback program taking place right now through the PLEADS program, the Substance Abuse Assessment Unit, and Treatment and Forced Felonies, Prop 36. 80% of arrests have been drug-related arrests, not related to shoplifting. This is not helping small business. I'm concerned as over 100 employees are making around or more than $100,000 a year in other pay. Of those employees, the $142 million was for the city of San Diego. City attorney made $7.8 million in other pay. SDPD, $45 million in other pay. The county, I realize this is not a county forum, however, this goes to my point. The county had $60 million. Of those, the DA, $5.8 million. SD Public Defender, $4.9 million. And many of those $100,000 other pays went to detention facility nurses and psychiatrists. I have concerns that patients are being filtered through our system, brought in from all over the United States, put through treatment programs. Everyone involved in the process gets a kickback of $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000, depending on who. I have concerns that Judge Paula Rosenstein, who was a VP of Mitchell International Insurance Processing and is now Drug Care Court, is taking kickbacks for defendants. I think defendants are being placed in homeless situations that they would never have been in before because they're being flown in from Oklahoma, like Kyle Witt, who's represented by Karen Gold in Los Angeles, for being dumped on the street as a patient from Oklahoma who came for treatment. Watch the movie Body Brokers, please, and also The Dirty Business of Getting Clean, a report by the New Jersey State Governor. Thank you.
Thank you. I started the 5-minute timer here in council chambers going to those participating remotely. We currently have 8 speakers with their hands raised, starting with Lori Saldana. If you can please unmute. 9 speakers now.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on what I stated earlier, that the city's short-term vacation rental ordinance is enriching the CEO of Airbnb, who is now working with Elon Musk and Doge to decimate our federal employees, our federal agencies. And I encourage the city council to take action to remove that profit-making monetization of our housing in San Diego. If you look up the current reports on Airbnbs in San Diego, over half of them, there are almost 9,400 total houses that are part of the city's database for short-term rentals. That means a full-time resident does not have access to that unless they pay an exorbitant amount of money. Of those over 9,000 houses, nearly half of them are the entire house. And many of those are in D2, where I live. A third of these houses are in District 2, nearly 3,000. So I am watching my neighborhood be infiltrated by monetizing homes that used to belong to neighbors, full-time neighbors, and now they are businesses operating a commercial business in a residential neighborhood. I encourage this city, stop enriching people who are monetizing what should be one of the safest investments someone can make, to have housing, whether they are renting or buying. And instead, by allowing this short-term vacation rental program to expand in San Diego to nearly 10,000 homes, there is no wonder our homelessness population is increasing, and there is no wonder the profits going to the CEO of Airbnb are now allowing him to go and work hand in hand with Elon Musk. Please get rid of that ordinance.
Next is Francine Maxwell. If you can please unmute.
Thank you. Francine Maxwell, District 4. I want to make sure that the council understands for the CPP, as shenanigans are being done behind closed doors. Nobody asked Charmaine Mosley to write a departure letter. Nobody asked for Donnell, our interim executive director, to write a letter. So this was strategic to try to upset the apple cart of CPP. I also want to know and thank the environmental services for giving us the dates of our trash fee meetings so that people can make adjustments in their schedule. You gave them to us early enough that the community can participate. Where's our budget schedule? When can the community see the departments come out to the community, come out of the chamber, so that we can see how D8 with all the harassment lawsuits and how the HR has protected D8 and the city, but we still have more lawsuits because all you do is have HR tell someone that, no, you're not being harassed, and they go get an attorney, and then we, the taxpayers, have to pay not only that person's attorney fees, but a good amount of money because D8 has harassed a lot of her employees. D8 doesn't even have a BIPOC staff for her first term nor second term. So we want to be careful when we throw around the words DEI, equity, and that we are a progressive body. You guys are not, because there's some communities that have had a ton of town halls, and there's some communities that have had none. And so if this is San Diego for all of us, then all of us would be having town hall meetings, educating each other equitably so that we can all come to an understanding of how the cuts are going to be felt harder in some areas of concern and how we continue to be the areas of concern. So again, thank you for the trash fee dates. Our community can now take off early to make sure that they can attend and know how much they're going to be charged and why. So let's get ready for the budget.
Thank you. Blair Beekman, if you can please unmute.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Hi, I hope you can hear me. My Zoom may cut in and out. If it does, I'm very sorry about that. I've had kind of a tough day today, trying to get through it. I sat and listened to the meeting and listened to public comment. Thank you for the words of our city council and the efforts that you want to be making at this time. I think they're very inspiring and hopeful, and I think in seeing how well we can work towards our best practices and beliefs and ideas, I'm hoping that the federal administration won't be pushing too hard in what we can honestly be wanting to work towards and share. Good luck in how that it can be a good debate and not a mean-spirited one. Let's hope we don't go into that department again. So good luck. I think if we practice best ideals, that'll bring out the best in all of us. So good luck in those efforts. And speaking of best ideals, I'm just amazed that Councilperson Ella Rivera brought around the idea of fair wage or wage increases for tourism workers. I guess it's for hotel workers and for convention workers, both. One, I think, is a city government position for janitors and such. One is asking hotels, I think, to do that sort of effort. Thank you. I mean, I've just been gathering the idea that, you know, the good perks we give to the tourism industry, why don't we learn how to practice those good perks as a local community instead of everybody dissing everybody? And Councilperson Oliveira has taken a really constructive approach, and that's awesome. I mean, it's ways to lift the economy, possibly. So good luck how we can really, in these tourism questions, work towards the benefit of all, and not just everybody's exclusive and excluded and specialized and partitioned, you know, and petitioned into each little corner. Let's do it for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. Your time has concluded. Madison, the 5-minute timer has also concluded. We have 6 additional speakers in the queue. No additional speakers will be taken after that. Madison, if you can please unmute.
Okay, good afternoon, City Council members. I'm here to highlight the ongoing impact of Big Tobacco's business model and the need for continued vigilance in addressing tobacco and other drug-related issues in our city. Despite efforts to reduce smoking rates, Big Tobacco's business model is still thriving, as demonstrated by the sector's impressive 32% net margin. In 2024, the tobacco industry had the highest average net margin of any sector in the United States, higher than companies like Alphabet, Meta, Microsoft, Visa, and Berkshire Hathaway, just to name a few. This staggering profitability shows just how entrenched the industry is. How is Big Tobacco the sector with the highest net margin? To break it down simply, they sell an inexpensive and highly addictive product to a loyal customer base, ensuring steady demand. It would be smart for our local government to recognize that the cannabis market, as it becomes more widely permitted, is likely to follow Big Tobacco's lead in exploiting addictive substances for profit. With its potential for addiction, cannabis is poised to become the next industry to use similar tactics, marketing to vulnerable populations and relying on an addicted customer base. As cannabis businesses grow, the temptation to mimic Big Tobacco's strategies to maximize profits will increase, potentially leading to harmful public health consequences. A third of marijuana users develop a cannabis use disorder. As members of the San Diego City Council, you have the opportunity to lead by example in protecting our community from the harms of the tobacco and cannabis industries. By continuing to implement policies that limit tobacco and cannabis access, especially to youth who are vulnerable to substance use disorders, we can help curb the influence of industries that thrive and profit off addiction and harm. Thank you for your time and attention to this critical issue.
Thank you. Megan Stewart, if you can please unmute.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council President and Council members. My name is Megan Stewart. My background is in public health. Today, I'm here to address the alarming reality of marijuana regulation failures in the state of California and the risks they pose to our community. In 2024 alone, California's Department of Cannabis Control issued 63 product recalls and nearly 500 embargoes due to contamination, including illegal pesticides and harmful fungi. Investigations uncovered fraudulent lab testing, tainted products on shelves, and a regulatory system struggling to protect consumers. Shockingly, recent reports indicate that half of California's legal marijuana products contain untracked pesticides with dangerous chemicals appearing in nearly a third of tested samples. This is a public health crisis. Exposure to these contaminants can harm vulnerable populations, including children and those with weakened immune systems, which are often the populations being targeted by this industry's marketing tactics. The system designed to regulate the marijuana market is failing, allowing unsafe products to reach the market. San Diego must take action and can do so by advocating for stricter local oversight, increased transparency in testing, and robust public education efforts to inform residents of these risks. Our community's safety cannot be left in the hands of an industry that has repeatedly prioritized profits over public health. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Next is Kathleen Lippett, if you can please unmute. Kathleen Lippett, I can't unmute for you. I want to move on to the next speaker if you cannot unmute yourself.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay. I just wanted to point out that, yes, there was a recent article about the crime of Prop 36, that more criminals were arrested for drug use. But what often is overlooked is the high correlation between drug use and crimes. So for the juvenile arrestees, 3/5 of the youth who reported, who had been drug users, reported that they'd been arrested prior to that arrest. And they get arrested for property crimes and violent offenses and weapons and other crimes. It is not just, they're not being arrested because of a simple possession. They have criminal records that are long. So it's troubling that you have to acknowledge that even though, yes, there were 570 people who were arrested for Prop 36 violations, we need more treatment and especially prevention. We need to have a robust system of prevention because it is so much less costly than waiting until we have to provide treatment, often which is not available, or if it is exorbitantly expensive. It has to be available immediately, and it has to be longer term. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Next is Becky Rapp, if you can please unmute.
Good afternoon, San Diego City Council. My name is Becky Rapp. I'm a public health educator as well as a member of my planning group. And I come before you today to express my concern of road safety, particularly in the light of the alarming 25% increase in drug-involved crash fatalities. These numbers are deeply concerning as more drivers are getting behind the wheel while impaired by marijuana. The permitting of marijuana in our city has come with significant public health challenges. While the industry promotes its product under the guise of health and wellness, we are seeing increasingly aggressive marketing tactics, including billboards targeting teens and young adults without adequate safety regulations in place. And the risks are only rising. Just last week, during a congressional hearing, a representative from the Governor's Highway Safety Association emphasized that the need for roadside drug testing. He stressed that oral fluid testing or saliva tests are crucial for detecting recent marijuana use at traffic stops and helping to identify impaired drivers. The Department of Transportation approved saliva-based testing in 2023, which is a positive step forward, though the questions about its accuracy still remain. Marijuana can stay in the system for a long time, meaning a person could still be impaired even if it no longer shows up in the saliva test. However, this test remains an important tool in addressing the issue. I ask this council to consider strengthening our local regulations to prevent impaired driving and protect our community. Specifically, I urge you to consider and counter the messaging of the marijuana industry that often targets vulnerable populations, and to implement mandatory saliva testing at all suspected DUI stops. These measures would take an important step towards ensuring the safety of our residents and improving road safety across San Diego. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is 8700. If you can please unmute.
Thank you, City Clerk Fuentes. Joy Seniata, District 3. I was going to speak on AI. I'll do that tomorrow. But because I listened to a couple speakers today, and I realized I had to say this. So this is going to be negative, and then I'll finish with positive on a different subject. So I think it's Proposition 36. One day I was surfing, looking up legislative measures that had been approved. I can't remember which one I was looking for. It wasn't 36. But I stumbled onto that one. I believe that's the crime. I won't speak beautifully to this, but I will say the truth for me. Dear public, go in there. I think it's the California Legislative Affairs website. Go in there and look at the measure and take the deep dive. I could not believe what the pros and cons are of these things that we vote on and say yes and no to. The cost involved, it's mind-boggling. I could not believe how things can unfold when these things are implemented. So dear public, you have to go in there and look deeper so that you don't waste your time and your heart. Please do that, okay? I hope that makes sense to some of you. Now, on the positive end, President LaCava brought forward the fact that we are going to pick a new state flower, a new San Diego flower. Isn't that fabulous? We've been doing the carnation one. So this is a real thing. It's going to happen. It's rolling forward now. It's going to take a little bit of time. But start thinking about that. Isn't it fun? It's going to be something that'll add some light to our serious work. So thanks for listening. Love to all.
Thank you. And our final speaker is the original. Please unmute.
Oh, the final one. Where's your guys' pride flag? I was just wondering, is it being washed? I don't know. Are you trying to hide it from the federal government? Who knows, right? I mean, never know what you guys are doing in there. But it's interesting when you guys want to be like, enforce people to capitulate and surrender to the demands that you guys have that are completely unconstitutional and totally crimes against humanity. Like, you know, forcing people to take a genocide shot. That's one where it's like, if you don't do that, you're going to lose your job. But then when it's like the federal government comes in and they're like, we need you to work with us to basically, I mean, because a big part of that is getting out, you know, violent criminals from the communities. But it's like there's so much pushback against that. Like people want it to happen, but they're like, we don't like that. You know, the federal government is coming in when everybody said that the federal government's the one that deals with immigration. And now that they're actually dealing with immigration, you're like, oh my gosh, we're going to fight this. So interesting. I mean, especially when you have, you know, the homeless people that are having their, you know, privacy be breached by coming in and having the police department go and do warrant checks. You know what I mean? It's like, we don't want to get you off the street. We just want to check and see if you got a warrant because we want to make some money off of you in the courts. But then when it comes to somebody who breached the border illegally and has committed a federal offense, you're like, oh my gosh, we got to protect them. We got to make sure that that's not happening. I mean, just like if they were homeless, you guys, right, at Cesar Chavez Park, you're like, oh my gosh, this is such a sensitive matter.
we need to put them in temporary housing immediately. Oh, but the rest of the people that have been living on the streets, a big fuck you, right? It's so interesting the way you guys do stuff and who your allegiance is to, and that you are engaged in such treason. And again, like I said, I cannot wait for the federal government to come to San Diego, because you guys will all be held accountable.
Yeah. Thank you. Your time has concluded, and that concludes non-agenda public comment for this meeting.
All right, thank you, City Clerk. Turn over to the City Attorney's Office. Is there anything to report out from closed session? Nothing to report. All right, thank you. With that, we will now adjourn council to the regular council meeting on Tuesday, February 25th, 2025 at 10 a.m.
Promises, but I'm enjoying the illusion and the things my body says.